Hello and welcome to Pro Trader Strategies Market Commentary for Wednesday, January the 11th. My name is Eric Wilkinson. Some of you may recognize me as the Wolfman from CNBC, Fox Business, or even the Wall Street Journal for my commentary on everything from economic to geopolitical and market analysis. Please keep in mind that everything that we talk about in these daily market commentaries is not a solicitation to buy or sell any of these securities or strategies. At the end of the day, we're here to teach you some different strategies that you can implement into your portfolios, but please do that in your own way. The reason why I can't give you a recommendation on a particular stock or strategy is because I don't know your risk parameters, I don't know what's in your portfolios, and therefore, what I'm doing could be counterintuitive to what you are already doing. Having that out of the way, let's get this on. We do have a little bit of economic data going on today. We had Great Britain manufacturing production came in higher than expected at 1.3%. Industrial production for Great Britain came in at 2.1%, expected to be 0.8%. So much better than expected on those two fronts for Great Britain. Here in the United States, we got our oil inventories, which is why I've got this chart up of crude oil. One would expect crude oil having a drawdown, but as a matter of fact, we had a pretty big build of 4.1 million barrels versus the expected 0.9 million barrels. So like I said, when you have a build, you would expect that increase in supply would drive down the price of crude oil for lack of demand. But what we're seeing here is a news blurb that came out that said Saudi Arabia was going to be cutting their production to Asia by almost half. That caused crude oil to really spike because of that cut in production. But we have to remember, Iran, now that they can start selling oil, has been the major supplier to Asia. So that is the factor that kind of really offsets that whole production cut. We're not really seeing those production cuts happen, but nonetheless, crude oil on that inventory number seems to have really spiked higher, but it really has to do with the news blurb on Saudi Arabia saying they are going to cut production for Asia, and it's really a misnomer, if you will. Then on to gold futures. Gold futures again testing that 9-day moving average, up slightly on the day, but for the most part only unchanged for all intents and purposes. And then we have the bonds. Bonds pushing a little bit higher as we're seeing a lot of news stories come out with President-elect right now speaking, Donald Trump, and it's really causing the markets to get a little bit volatile. That's pushing the bonds slightly higher on the day, up almost a half a point, or right there at a half a point, up 16 ticks on the day. Then we got the Dow Jones Industrial Average. It was pretty interesting. While he was talking, we really rallied hard off of that at one point in time, and it looked as if we were going to test that 20,000 while he was speaking, which would have been pretty funny to see if it had tested that 20,000 or hit that 20,000 while he was talking. There would be a lot of talk about that, I'm sure. That would have been pretty funny, though, I thought. But anyway, Dow Jones Industrial Average up only about 30 points as we speak. We've got the NASDAQ down slightly on the day after, a wild ride here in the last half an hour or so. The NASDAQ down just slightly on the day by about 4 points, just slightly over. E-mini S&Ps negative on the day during this talk as well. Market was quite a bit higher, and then as soon as Trump started talking, so we can kind of look into this breakdown. This is some pretty big moves from basically 2270, let's call it, down to 2255. So about a 25 point, actually about a 15 point move in a matter of 15 minutes or so. In a matter of minutes is what it felt like. But a lot of this was the talk on the Russian hacking, Trump talking about that, the golden shower of Russia, and then also speaking to major corporations out there in the United States that if they move over to Mexico with a plant, they were going to see a major tariff on the border coming into the United States. That's causing a lot of juking and jiving. At the end of the day, he's seemed to have been working it out pretty well. Ford decided to not build a plant in Mexico and has decided to hire about 700 jobs here in the United States. Toyota came out and said that they were going to build a major plant in Mexico. Trump laid into them. We'll have to see how that works out. They have a lot of plants already in the United States. Maybe they'll just ramp up production in those, but it's going to be interesting to see. But as he talks, all of his news is really being filtered throughout the market right now, and I believe he's still talking. So that's going to be a wild ride. And for that, I haven't done a whole lot. I'm trying to work out of a couple of different trades. One of them is my gap trade that I've had on for a while, and I have on a straddle in there. It's the 23 straddle. So with this big move down in gap, it's putting it really close to my 23 straddle. Haven't that's exactly what we want to see, and it's very close to my 25-30% of my max profit on that. So I collected originally $3 for that February 23 straddle. The rules behind that are really coming into line as you get it to move away and come back. I've gotten that theta decay, so that's working out real well. Plus I've also seen volatility contraction, so a lot of things working in my favor right now. If it comes down there and pins that 23, I'm probably going to easily be able to get out of that for about 30% of my max profit, which is my target for that type of trade that I talk about in all of the daily market in the daily market commentaries and in the webinars. So if you haven't seen my webinar on the straddle and all the rules that go into that, that's a really good one because it's pretty important. It's a low probability type of trade, so that's why I'm looking to take a little bit less than what I would normally take on some other trades. Then on to WYNN again. Yesterday I was trying to get to that 50% of my max profit on that trade. It just never came to fruition. It never even came close, to be quite honest. It's just about a nickel or so away from where I was on that trade the last couple of days. Part of the problem is it's a long call spread, so I'm long the 85 calls, and there's just not a whole lot of trade in those deep in the money calls right now. So I need to see some of that. The bid ask on those is a little bit wide, so it's not allowing me to get out. I'm kind of starting to look to settle for a little bit less than maybe 50% of my max profit on that. Be closer to 45% or something like that. Just because I've seen it rally up quite a lot. We're not seeing that theta decay or any of that happening with those short in the money calls right now, and they're just in the money by 6 cents. I'm short the 92.5 calls in there, so might be able to get this to work out if those slightly go out of the money, but we're gonna have to wait and see on that one. So playing that one by ear. I've got a resting order in there for that one, continuing to try to get out for the last several days. It's just not come in, basically because I'm in the February and there's not that much theta decay happening right now. So we will have to leave that in as a resting order, and hopefully somebody comes in and tries to pick me off. All right. So that's about all I got for you guys today. Friday's webinar is going to be on the call butterfly. It's a really good one, especially for these low implied volatility environments, and especially in situations where we have the new president-elect coming in. Nobody really knows what's going to happen, so we could see wild moves in the next few weeks or months. So that could work out perfectly for this type of strategy. All right, so go to protraderstrategies.com, sign up for that one. That's about all I got for you guys today, except for if you can't take that, take it easy.